Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Saturday edition of the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I'm really thrilled you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of what we do every weekend and, of course, every Wednesday. You guys are absolutely phenomenal, and you make us what we are. So thank you so much for being here, and we hope you have a great weekend ahead of you and have had a great weekend or week behind you and are enjoying yourself and taking advantage of this warm, lovely weather, well, that we're having. I don't know what you guys are dealing with out there, but I'm just trying to be optimistic. So thanks again for being here. And, of course, before I go any further, let me welcome my good friend and co-host, Mr. Don Longbeard, to the show. Unmute you.
I just kind of guessed on that one. I was like, whatever. All right.
Rookie mistake.
Well, it's okay. It's what Brent does.
It's what I do, and I do it well. I do it like, if you're going to screw something up,
love.
Do it as fantastically as you know how to. And I can redefine what that means every week here on the show, but it's a labor of love here, ladies and gentlemen, and of course we have a lot of fun doing the show. And it's our forum for all things paranormal, but we like to keep it light and fun because, of course, these subjects can get really dark and dreary and creepy, and I don't know, they can be really heavy. So we like to keep it light and fun and have a good time with it because the phenomena itself that we cover, of course, is fantastic. It's amazing. It redefines the reality that we know and understand. But it's also pretty heavy for some people. So we hope to bring it to a lighter state, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So how you doing, Don? You having a good day?
Doing good. Yeah, I just kind of tired. I ran home from the show last night. Got home before 12:30, which is something new. laid down, and went, oh, this feels so good. An hour later, I was like, oh, this still feels so good. 2 hours later, it's like, when am I going to fall asleep?
Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
That's horrid.
Get up and go to work. And here I am again, 24-hour cycle. Yay!
Here you are burning the fumes with us. So we're absolutely thrilled you're here, of course, as always. But, ladies and gentlemen, the call-in board tonight is open. And we would love to hear from you here on the portal. And the call-in number is 213-233-3998. Again, 213-233-3998. Or you can call 833-TFR-LIVE, and that should get you to the same place as well. But if you're calling from in the UK, across the pond, the number to call is 44203-393-2871. So those are some options and ways to get in touch with us. But before I go any further, it's... This is a guest, another one of these people, these amazing people that I've listened to for years. I've had the pleasure of learning a lot from her talks, and the subject matter is it's incredibly profound and amazing, and she has done a spectacular job of covering it. She is an accomplished author and investigator. She's the author of 17 books on the Dogman phenomena and other amazing phenomena as well. And she is the foremost expert, in my opinion, or foremost researcher, in my opinion, of the Dogman phenomena. I'd like to welcome to the show Mrs. Linda Godfrey. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me tonight.
Oh, it's our pleasure. It's just amazing to have this opportunity to talk to you because I have listened to you for years, and I've just been so amazed with the depth and the energy and the effort that you put into this subject in order to report it in such an amazing way and to share what you're finding with all of us out here. It's just an honor to have this opportunity to talk to you.
Well, sharing is what it's all about. It's somehow helping others to understand that this thing is going on and look for reasons and anything that might possibly be associated with it.
Right. Well, yeah. And that it is one of those phenomena that's really hard to put a pin on it. But how did this road start for you? I mean, I know this is probably something that you've talked about a million times, but it's just an honor to be able to ask you that question now myself. So.
Well, thanks. Sure. Yeah, and I understand that, and I don't for a minute think that every single person, in your listener base has heard my story or maybe even knows who I am. So I don't mind repeating it a little bit. But it was never, ever, ever my life's dream to be to be known as the person who I think I've had other weird little titles like that I don't go by, but people are just kind of joking, the werewolf queen or the, the that's kind of a weird one. But you understand what I mean. I never expected to be known for studying and writing about unknown upright canines or wolf-like creatures.
Mm-hmm.
I never did from the beginning, or nor do I now think they are actual literal werewolves, such as you know about from the Hollywood movies and from ancient mythology and things like that. There's something different. But my degree is actually in art education, and with an emphasis in painting and drawing in the fine arts. And I've done gallery work. I've worked with a nationally known art rep and that sort of thing. But what I really wanted to do from very early on was to be a cartoonist, because I thought that's, for me, the best of all worlds. I could write, I could use my art, do the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I really began to make a concerted effort toward that. After I was married and my kids were a little bit older, starting to get into the younger primary grades of school, I had a little bit more time. And I was getting very frustrated. I wanted to do editorial cartoons. You couldn't get published in a paper unless you had already published examples.
Mm.
And, which is sort of a self-fulfilling denial of ever being able to break into that field, although I came close. And in fact, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel at one time had offered to me to do fill-in work, when their major two cartoonists weren't able to. And then they changed their mind. I don't know why. They said that I had to live in Milwaukee and I was an hour away. So that's okay. It didn't work. But I decided, well, what I'll do is I'll just offer my services for free to this weekly paper. It was really kind of a neat paper, not just some people have described it as like a shopper flyer, but it was a lot more than that. It had real stories and went and a pretty large circulation. Mm-hmm. And I said, look, I'll make cartoons for you for free. I just really need to get published. And they liked them and seemed to be popular with the readers. So they started paying me $8 a week.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And this was not the Depression either. I mean, it was ridiculously little, but I just really, none of this that's occurred then or since has been for the money, obviously, because you can't get into a much lower pay scale than small town journalism, mm-hmm. Or books about weird things. There just, there just isn't the audience that people assume there might be. So I was doing cartoons for them, actually several of them. Mm-hmm. Editorial cartoons, and I had another little strip or two that I varied once in a while. And I was talking to the editor one day, one of the editors, about what I was going to do for the next week's cartoon. And he said, hey, by the way, one of our reporters just quit. You want to be a reporter? And that, I had no journalism experience in the real world, per se. Uh-huh. And so I was a little surprised, but I was thinking to myself, well, how hard could that be? And maybe if I went there, I could get more cartoons in the paper or something like that.
Sure, yeah.
And so I agreed. And it just so happened that I did a couple of very small articles. I did a real blockbuster about the very elderly couple that went to local nursing homes and played the piano for them. You probably haven't heard about that one.
Oh.
That kind of thing. And then I got this tip, and I actually was working on a story about some dog mutilations that had been found, and things like a puppy mill with the local animal control officer. And about that time, I had also heard some rumors going around Elkhorn that Elkhorn, by the way, is the county seat in the center of Walworth County, Wisconsin, right on the border between Wisconsin and Illinois. Mm. And quite a small, kind of conservative town, but people were saying that they were seeing this thing that looked like, they'd say, this thing that if there was such a thing as a werewolf, this is what it looked like. And the county, I mentioned it to the county animal control officer when I was over there talking to him, and said, "Hey, have you heard about this thing?" Because I was a little concerned that, there might be a rabid coyote or something like that
Mm-hmm.
out there. And he said, "Oh, yeah, you mean this?" And he pulled this manila file folder out of his desk that, no lie, was labeled werewolf. And inside of it were actual reports from people who were calling him and saying, "I saw this thing. It looked like a werewolf. I don't know what it was. And it did this and that." And I thought right away, a little bell went off in my head. And I thought, if you're wanting to hoax somebody, if you're wanting to pull a big thing on the public, or have a joke, you don't call and leave all your contact information
Yeah.
with a county official that can
Right.
come and then, charge you with fraud or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of interested me. And, I had all the names and I started going around and talking to these people to interview them. And it was a wide variety of people. And I thought, well, they didn't seem like they were crazy. They didn't seem like they were lying. Some of them still seemed genuinely frightened. The sightings were not like all in one convenient lump like you would expect if, say, there was a bunch of teenage boys going out and, you know, just kind of concentrating. Usually those things don't last very long. They go out and have
Right.
some fun for a few weeks or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And this was going back to all the way to at least 1981, just right in that area around Bray Road, which is a stretch of maybe 3 to 4 miles just outside of Elkhorn. It's actually used as kind of a shortcut to the hospital for local people,
Mm.
and not what you'd expect. It doesn't look like a spook woods or anything like that at all. It's all private land, just farmhouses and some fields and things like that. Very ordinary looking Wisconsin countryside. But I started to believe these people, and none of them went back on their stories. They were all saying I would, do whatever to let people know about this. And so, the editor agreed we should run it because, when you've got a county official with a file folder marked werewolf, that's literally news. You know, you can't not write about that.
Right.
And yeah, so I did, and we published it on New Year's Eve weekend when it's probably, like the worst news week of any time of the year.
Right.
Along with that little nursing home story. It wasn't even the front page. It was like a center fold up because I had made kind of a cartoonish sketch of what people seemed to be describing to me.
Uh-huh.
And I remember the editor said, "Well, people have fun with it for a couple of weeks and then it'll just go away and they'll forget it." Well, that was the worst prediction ever made because 26 going on 27 years later, it's gotten huge.
Right.
And it took all that time. It really did not explode until the last maybe 3 or 4 years since the internet cryptozoology groups have gotten so large and popular, and there are lots of special Dogman Facebook pages dedicated just to that, and it's gotten a much wider audience. Not to mention podcasts like yours,
Mm-hmm.
spreading the word. But people think that or have the mistaken impression that I just immediately went into this big career with it, writing books, that kind of thing. And again, not true at all. I worked for that newspaper as just more or less a regular contributor and writer. And most of my stories were about, I actually received some awards for work on domestic violence and physically challenged children,
Mm-hmm.
different things like that. So I would write though. I never stopped getting the mail from people. What happened when this came out that shocked us was that it immediately went just bonkers in all kinds of press. The radio shows were calling me almost around the clock those first few weeks. It started with the local TV stations, Madison, Milwaukee, Chicago. Then I remember one of the first Inside Edition shows came out there, Sci-Fi's New in Search of. And what happened with that was not only did that alert all the other media so that anytime there was need for somebody who was had the werewolf word in their description, I was kind of the only one for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I would get called. But also, the part I really liked and what amazed me and what keeps me going now was that people who had seen this thing other places started to contact me.
Right.
I received a call from Michigan. There was a man who had written kind of a jokey April Fool's joke type of ballad about the Michigan Dogman that played it, and this was in 1987, before the Beast of Bray Road,
Uh-huh.
and people started calling him and saying, "Hey, that's no joke, man. You know, my dad saw it, I saw it, whatever." And the same thing was happening in Wisconsin, and I was getting reports from all kinds of other states. Even I remember one early one was from the Virgin Islands that said they had kind of a similar creature there,
Wow.
and it was not ever explained to my satisfaction by anyone. I remember the animal control officer's explanation was that perhaps it was some kind of coyote, which, mind you, are normally about maybe 36 pounds.
Yeah.
Um, you know, they're normally not very large. That maybe it was some sort of coyote that leaped up into the air, and the car caught it in its headlights at that precise moment that it was up in the air, and it appeared to be walking, you know, and then dropped back down on it. You know, it just, that's a bigger stretch to me,
It is.
you know,
Yeah.
than believing that a wolf-like creature, a dog or a wolf, would walk around on its hind legs, because basically that's mostly all any of these things did. Either that, or they were in sort of a weird posture by the side of the road eating roadkill.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it was really just sort of a slightly misplaced physical um, uh, build to them, and this odd behavior of walking on their hind legs, which is not a supernatural act. Any mammal can do it if trained or motivated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if sometimes they have hurt their front limbs and are forced, or they're born without forelimbs. There's some great examples on YouTube. So it still acted weird, though. It would meet people's eyes, and they would describe this thing as stopping, staring them in the eyes as if it was examining them, and they would use one of several words like sneer or jeer. They say I felt it was sneering at me or jeering at me, or that it was telling me, you know, it was trying to give me the impression that it was better than me, which is not what you hear when somebody comes across, say, a bear, you know. And I
Yeah.
mean, my husband is a deer hunter. He's been out in the woods and had a bear go by his deer stand, and he didn't say, "Oh, hon, I saw this bear, and you know, it was jeering at me, and I felt like it was telling me that, you know, it could come up in this tree and get my deer stand if it wanted to."
Right.
And then it just walked away. You know, that
Mm-hmm.
you would laugh with the absurdity of it. But that is what people have said, you know, time after time, and they still are. I still get that very, very same thing. And the other thing that happened was that other odd phenomena began to occur out there. And for instance, one of the first witnesses actually went to see the animal control officer herself. And I didn't know, they didn't tell me this for a while until after the main story was printed. But um, while she was in there talking to him, he had a bookshelf on the wall behind his head. And she said the book started just kind of moving forward and then flying off the shelf until a whole bunch of them had just dropped off the shelf. And he confirmed that to me. And this is a no nonsense, science-y kind of guy, you
Uh-huh.
know. And I mean, he was almost ashamed to say it, but there have been other places right around that road that, especially a 40-some acre hayfield toward the end of it, that where it intersects with Highway 11, that I've been doing field work at for several years with the owner. And I love to do field work. People always, that's another question. People ask me, do you go out and do your own field work? I do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like, and when you hear the term hunting, people have this other false impression that I'm, you know, slinging a semi-automatic over my shoulder and, you know, going out, marching out in boots and camo and trying to bring one down or something like that. You know, and you know, that's really just not going to happen. For one thing, the sightings really are fairly rare and sporadic and random. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's no way to really tell. But I do, when there has been one, what I do is go out and hunt for evidence, footprints, for instance, hair tufts, should we ever be so lucky. there seem to be more of those from Bigfoot, but not this creature. Talking to any other people in the area, just looking for that kind of thing. That's what I mean by it. And um, we're going to be lucky enough later on this evening, should everything work out well enough mechanically, that the owner of this hayfield is going to come on,
Mm-hmm.
and I've shared with you, Brent, some his latest trail cam photos of something that is just the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I don't know if you can show that so your listeners can see it later.
Yes, I can.
But
Absolutely.
perfect, yeah, because he'll come on and explain about it. And this is a retired physics and math teacher
Oh.
from Chicago who never had anything like this happen until he bought this hayfield out on Bray Road. And if anyone has read my last book, which is Monsters Among Us, I kind of followed the trajectory of all those experiments using deer carcasses, which were um, laid right at the feet of the trees that we're going to see, or the roots of the trees. Maybe trees don't have feet, I know. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He had, I think, number 18, and then the rules and regulations changed, and he couldn't bring deer carcasses up from Illinois anymore. But we did all kinds of things and then recorded the results, some of which were just extremely eerie. We had a mutual spherical light formation that we'll talk about, that he and I and another colleague all saw when we were having a stakeout one night out there. Yeah, the answer is I really do like to do field work, and I'm still hoping. I have photos of footprints, which I think are the best evidence, but
Mm-hmm.
the big thing is to show that there seem to be other forces at work or at play. I don't know which of those two choices that is for whatever these things are.
Right.
And hopefully we will get to talk to Lee a little bit later on.
What you said, he's from Illinois, because I see there is a call in the call cycle already from Illinois.
Oh,
Uh,
that might be him.
okay, so maybe when we come back, we got about 3.5 minutes until the first break. So maybe when we come back, we can get into that part of the discussion and check out those pictures as well.
Sure, that sounds great. Yeah, he has literally thousands of odd things that his trail cam has caught,
Wow.
and so sometimes he has 2 or 3 trail cams up, and I've helped him place them. He's had other brilliant ideas. We can tell you about his idea for putting an iPhone down the gullet of a deer carcass, which I tried to help. We worked on that for an entire afternoon, and finally gave up. The idea was to track it. So, and I could tell you what happened to that experiment instead, which was almost, well, it was much, much creepier.
Oh wow, yeah, that'd be great. This is really exciting, and it's phenomenal information. So, do just in a nutshell, are when you mentioned legends before, is that when we look at things like from Egypt and other areas that seem to uh, indicate some kind of dog like man like creatures, are those, do you suppose, the same kind of lineage, or would they be different altogether? What is your take on that?
Well, they don't exactly seem the same. And
Okay.
the one really clear indication is the medieval werewolves that were just, like the Beast of Gévaudan was supposed to have eaten like 100 people and livestock and
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of thing. And the ones that are seen today, at least all of the ones that have been submitted to me personally, there are other reports out there, but not many. The people are not hurt. At the last second, even though it should have been able to get them and make mincemeat out of them, it just runs away or vanishes or just goes somewhere.
Right.
And the people are not hurt.
Yeah, which is pretty amazing. So, this is such a huge topic, and I just already can tell that 2 hours is just going to barely scratch the surface of what we could get into here. But it's absolutely compelling and interesting already.
Well, thank you. Yeah, well, we'll have to do a couple more in the series, I think.
I was hoping you'd say that. I see great minds think alike, I guess. So this is perfect. Yeah, we would love to have you back for several of these, because I really believe we could probably talk and talk and talk and still never come close to exhausting the information that you'd have to offer. So, but ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be taking our first break of the night in about 30 seconds. But again, The call board is open. You can feel free to call in. It's 213-233-3998 if you have a question for Linda or in regards to the Dogman phenomenon or any of our other books and information that you may be familiar with as well. But we are here, and we'll be anticipating your call. And, of course, we are broadcasting tonight on iHeart, TuneIn, TalkStream Live, and on TFRLive.com. But we are also simulcasting on YouTube at youtube.com/paranormalportal. And so you can find us many of those ways. But we'll be right back after these messages in about 2 minutes. So don't go away.
into the truth frequency.
Your protection from deception. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and we are thrilled you're here. Hope you're enjoying the show. We're off at a run here, discussing the Dogman phenomena with our special guest, Mrs. Linda Godfrey. And welcome back, Linda, to the show.
Great to be here again.
So we have gotten into a little bit about some of the research that you've done, and you have clearly stated that you do your own research. You're not just a desk jockey that's pulling up web pages. You're out there with the boots on the ground, actually checking out these sightings, checking out physical evidence maybe that you can capture of these sightings, and including experimental research, which is really, I think, phenomenal. So did you want to go right to the phone call now, or did you want to wait for that?
But if he's online there, you may as well bring him on, because he's very, he knows best about some of these experiments that he's designed, and
Okay.
and I think you'd be interested to hear from him. So
Absolutely. I'm hoping that this is him, but it's from Northbrook, Illinois. So let's. I'm sorry?
I don't have the pictures yet.
They didn't come through?
Not
Okay.
yet.
All right. Let me get the call in here, and we'll see. Area code 847. Is that you, Lee?
Yes, it is. This is Lee Hempel. Hi,
Lee.
Linda. How are you doing?
hey, good. You sound good.
Well, welcome to the show, sir.
You can hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you loud and clear.
Thank
It's
you, Brent.
wonderful.
Thank you.
It's really
Thank
an
you.
honor that you're calling in and sharing your experience with this as well. I'm really excited to hear what you guys have uncovered.
Well, I'm not sure if we know
Well-
exactly what it is that we've uncovered. Do you, Lee?
No. It continually brings more questions and answers, and that's the interesting part. You heard Linda's experience of her journey into this cryptic world. Well, my journey is just as entwining and different from what I would expect to be in this world. I mean, as a math teacher, and just it to be on a show now talking about a dogman on my property near Elkhorn, Wisconsin, is something that in my world I would never be doing. But here I am, and I believe in the dogman now. With and many other activities which have occurred there have been extremely strange.
And that's a funny thing, because I don't know that anybody ever plans, for in a lot of cases, to be involved with the paranormal. It's like the paranormal plans us,
Falls into your lap.
Yeah, it just kind of falls into your lap, and then we're left to just kind of find an equilibrium and balance with it, and it starts these fascinating journeys for all of us. So I think that's phenomenal that, so many people come from so many diverse and different backgrounds. But I think that that also helps to really lend a lot of credibility to the material, is coming from those different places. And, it's not just one type of person having these experiences.
Absolutely. And falling into your lap, that's a very good description of what occurred, because that's exactly what happened. So,
wow. Well, what
a
can
little
you
bit of history. I did purchase a farm in 2007, and had my youngest son in 2010 said, "There's some strange dog man running around on your property up there." And I do live 35 miles from Elkhorn, and that's where I taught high school in Wakanda, Illinois.
Uh-huh.
And I said, "Well, when I see him, I'll let you know." Then several of the gentlemen in the area were helping me bale hay in September of 2013, and after we had completed the hay baling, we were standing in my barn, and we're looking out the field, and one of them said, "The dog man lives back here." I go,
Wow.
What are you talking about? And he said, "Yeah," he said, he's been seen around here, and in fact, his wife and mother had seen it. And I go, right. And he was telling me about the gentleman who saw it on Bray Road eating a raccoon. And the next day I was driving on the road and found a roadkill raccoon, and put that back on my property in the fence line, and strange things started happening immediately. So that was the beginning of this journey, and now for the last 5 years, basically, I've had cameras out and have put out 18 deer, roadkill deer that Linda has said, and many strange activities have happened with these deer and raccoons.
Wow. So, if you don't mind me asking, what was your first approach to all of this? So you said you put out the raccoon and things started. So when did you decide to start kind of actively studying this?
Well, I'm an outdoors person. I've hunted and done a lot of outdoor activities, and I put the raccoon out and I threw it on my fence line. Well, in September, the fence line is very tall, 3 feet tall. The grass is, and I threw it on my fence line back in the far northwest corner. And the next day I went back, and so it's down in this nest. I would call it a nest because it's just laying at the bottom on the ground, but all this tall grass around it.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back the next day, and here the raccoon is cut open, and the intestines are gone.
Wow.
But yet all the grass, this tall grass around it, you could see where I had walked in a little bit to drop the raccoon. The tall grass is still there. There's no trampling of the grass. There's no path through the grass. It's simply the raccoon has been cut open and the intestines are gone. Which, I'm thinking a hawk, an eagle got in there.
Mm-hmm.
Then 2 days later, I went back and looked again, and it was still down in this nest, we'll call it, and it had been moved about a foot in there, and had been pretty much more of it had been taken away, and now the maggots are on it. I go, well, it's got moved, so maybe still thinking hawk or eagle had moved it over a little bit, and I went back like 3 or 4 days later, and it's no longer in the nest. It's put in a little pile about 15 feet away, and it's all maggots, and it's just put in a little pile, and it's taken out of there. And again, no path into the nest. The grass is not trampled in any way.
Uh-huh.
And I go, well, a bird cannot do this. So then I started with the concept that this is something unusual happening immediately. And later I found a badger. Of course, Wisconsin's a badger state, and I found a roach. I put that in that nest down in there. Now, badger's 20 pounds, and 3 days later, it was like 10 feet away. It had been taken out and put over to the side. So now I'm thinking maybe it's a person. Okay, somebody back on my property, but my property is extremely isolated.
Okay.
You have to go. It's a half mile from any road. It's about about a half mile from Bray Road, my back part of my property. And so then I put up a camera, and I put a raccoon, and the raccoon I used my brother's camera, and the raccoon is moved like 15 feet again. Like a week later, that raccoon is put over by where the other one had been.
Huh.
Okay.
So I have this on camera. Okay, so I checked the camera, and there's absolutely no pictures. I go, whoa. Okay, so I told my brother his camera was malfunctioning, so I bought another camera, and at that time it was the first deer that I found on the roadkill, and put that out there, and it was carried away. I mean, it was gone, and all I have on my camera is mist, the white mist. I don't know what pictures Linda has sent you, but I get this white mist or a black mist or brown mist
Sure.
on many of my pictures, and then the deer is moved or gone.
Wow. Can you just hold on a second, Lee? We did end up losing Linda, so I'm trying to get her back on again. I tried to just reconnect with her now. Are you there, Linda? No, she's not. Okay. Let me see if I can get her back on the call here. I see she's typing now, but we'll get her back. She's not getting away from us that easy.
Okay.
But,
Welcome to the portal.
okay. All right. Let me.
Yes, you went into a portal. This to continue how it then in November of 2013, I'm also finding these tracks here, 5-toed, 7-pad tracks. and I've seen this track hundreds of times. And in fact, the one deer had been carried away. I mean, I could see where it had been carried through my fence line and then carried through a cornfield. And these 5-toed, 7-pad tracks were numerous. I tracked it for a half mile through the cornfield. And I have a hayfield, but my neighbor had a cornfield.
Oh.
And I tried to get people to look at this track, and nobody would. They said it was a deformed coyote or abnormal coyote or wolf, and I go, well, it's not. So that's when I contacted Linda, and I'd like for Linda to be on to tell her to talk about our first experience.
Sure.
When I contacted her and had breakfast, and then we went out to the farm.
Okay, I think she's back with us now. Are you there, Linda?
I am. I don't know where I went. I just kind of fell into the vortex for a few minutes there.
Well, we call it a portal.
It's a portal.
It's a portal, yeah.
Portal.
Skype, I think Skype is a strange portal sometimes.
Oh,
Yes.
believe me, I've had so many nightmares with this computer program. I can't tell you, but it's definitely given me plenty rows of gray hair.
Well, it seems fine now. So
Okay, now Lee was asking that you explain your first meeting.
oh
Yeah.
yes,
And what occurred when we went out into my field after our breakfast. We had the smell, and then we checked the pictures. Remember? Remember the smell was there?
right. There was a really awful smell. It was like death and vomit and dog urine and all kinds of things like that rolled up all together. It was almost overwhelming.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
we got out of my truck and go ahead, Linda.
oh no, I'm trying. I'm not exactly sure, where we are in the.
Okay. Well, you and I had breakfast, and then we met with the other lady at my farm, and we went out. I drove out in my truck, and we went out back, and we got out of my truck, and I said, "There's that smell," which I have smelled about 5 or 6 times now.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "There's that smell, that terrible smell." And remember, I walked up to there was a deer, and I said, "I'll see if it's the deer smell," and the deer didn't have any odor. It had been there for quite a while, and I said, "That's still that smell. It gets in your nose, and you can't get it out. An hour later, you still smell that smell,
Right. Yeah. It's bad. We'll just say it's bad. And I never smelled it again to that intensity, even though we had some deer that were like literally one. They looked like one solid crawling maggot. I mean, they were just completely infested with them. And the smell was something that seemed its own thing, and the same thing has been reported with Bigfoot, but the Bigfoot smell is not quite as rank as this, and I've smelled them both, in different locations.
Wow.
But so I don't know what else you've exactly told them, Lee, because I was out there, so I'll let you just continue.
I just basically told them about I put the raccoon out, and then I started putting out deer, and they just started being carried away, and then with our first meeting, and I told them about the 5-toed, 7-pad tracks that we've seen many times, and the track experts say it's a abnormal coyote.
Oh, really?
But they're way too big for
Yes,
a
right.
Coyote tracks don't look anything like these, and are not as big, and also these are deeply imprinted into what is often dry soil. Where if you try and reproduce it, you can't, but it's several inches down into the soil. And I know that in one case, it was that 60-pound deer that you had out there, Lee, that,
Yes.
right, that when he came back to see what had happened to it, the deer was gone, but there were these tracks, and it was easy to sort of follow the trail. It had to go either through or over or under a barbed wire fence into the next field, and they were only the hind leg prints. It was walking bipedally at this time, and I know that Lee and that was your brother that was with you? I can't remember exactly.
One of my hired hands at that time.
One of your hired hands walked with you, tracked it through a field till you came to a road, and then it ended. And the weird thing was that when Lee checked his trail cam, he discovered that it wasn't visible to the naked eye, but it was really exciting to get to go look at the trail cam and say, oh boy, now we can see what took this thing away. And instead, the deer is lying there, and then all of a sudden there's this discrete misty form that is above the deer and obscuring it, and it's there for about half an hour with multiple triggerings of the trail cam, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
Wow.
And the deer is gone.
Oh, really?
Right. And
wow.
Yes, that's correct.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
What is the significance of the 5-toe 7 pads?
I mean, it's just a very, very unusual track. If you look on the internet, there's no 5-toed 7 pad, because it's got a center pad and a heel pad.
Okay.
Track that any animal makes.
I understand.
They're 5-toed animals,
right?
But not canine. This is a canine track. It has the claw marks or the toe marks in front.
Okay.
It's a canine track, and there's just no animal that matches up with it. And I mean, it's a 22-inch I have pictures, or I've measured 22-inch. A normal one's normally walking is 22-inch, but I have snow pictures of it taking strides of 40, not stride, but a step of 48 inches.
Wow. That's huge.
Between the steps, it's 48 inches across my field, 48-inch apart steps.
Yeah.
And there's another type of thing.
Which would be
the other thing that makes steps out there, or imprints in the soil, I think Lee calls them fist.
Yeah, absolutely.
They look like fists.
I call them the fist. Right, the fist print.
Yeah.
Right, but
they're the fist prints.
Mm-hmm.
They don't seem to have.
But they're.
Yeah, they're just like flat. They're just like flat without toes, and it's almost like a big hoof, but there is no hoof thing like that would be out there. Oh. It's very hard to describe them. He's got tons of pictures of them.
Okay.
And they're 4 inches by 4 inches by 4 inches, and they're very deep. And they're about 36 inches apart on a normal step.
Wow. So this would
Correct.
be could be a handprint from this creature, or what do you hypothesize that this print comes from?
I mean, it certainly doesn't seem to be a handprint, because they're 36 inches apart, and I've tracked that for also a half mile, and it's a big animal, because it sinks in, as Linda said. It'll sink that animal will sink in 2-3 inches on fairly dry ground. That animal is large.
Okay.
And the track experts won't even look at that. They say that's not an animal track, but yet I have many pictures of it, and I've seen it hundreds and hundreds of times, really.
So it doesn't have a right angles. It doesn't have machined edges. It has what looks like very, very natural formation to it, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Again, it looks to appear to have.
Yeah.
Appears to have about 3 rounded toes in front. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's bipedal again. It's not like a 4-legged animal. So it's just really, really bizarre. And for comparison, I mean, I have been out in different locales. I have found and photographed wolf tracks and super large wolf tracks in places where dogmen have been reported, and they look like natural wolf tracks, in just large in some cases. Mm-hmm. But these things are not the same, and that same tree from which out from under which that deer was whisked away in the mist, literally, seems to be like the center of all the really weirdest stuff that happens. Lee, I was going to tell them about the stakeout and what we
Sure,
saw.
sure, go ahead, sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
and feel free to chime in. But I think this was your deer carcass number 17 or so over the several years. And it was warm. It was like August or so. And there should have been hungry things around. And nothing was seeming to come and eat that carcass. It was like it had been, marked with a do not eat sticker or something, which is really weird. When you set something up to, some woods, when and it's dead and it's just there for a free for all. That's what you get. You get skunks, you get possums, you get large birds of prey. Everything's coming there to get their piece of that carcass.
Right.
Nothing was touching this. And I said, maybe there's something bigger scaring away the usual things that come and eat these carcasses. So we should do a stakeout and just see. So Lee and a friend of ours, Sanjay Singhal, who's also a very busy researcher in these things, sat out. We were in Sanjay's car. The two guys were in the front seat. I was in the back seat because I always think it's going to sneak up on us from the back, and I like to be first one to see that. But we were watching. It was a really nice evening, clear. There were airplanes coming along a flight path. I was kind of watching those lights, and I suddenly realized that one of the lights, instead of proceeding along like airplanes do, had stopped just dead in its tracks in the sky and then started moving back the other way. And I said, hey guys, that one's no plane. And they both looked, and as soon as we all looked, it was like it knew it, and it started coming across the field to us.
Oh, wow.
Which was super freaky.
Yeah.
And as it approached, we could tell that, it wasn't a plane light as we had. It almost seemed to have been mimicking, the landing lights of a plane. It wasn't that, and it was getting bigger, but not horribly bigger. And it finally, and we're just going, what is that? What's it doing? And I was trying to get my camera up in place so I could get a good shot of it. And it finally stopped. We agreed it was somewhere around 30 feet from the car and maybe 30 feet at most in the air. It might have been a little bit less. And it was a basketball-sized, sphere-shaped, lighted object, but it wasn't lighting up the area around it. It was self-lit, but not shining.
Uh-huh.
And we were all just completely baffled by it. And I was just getting ready to start clicking my camera. I had it poised, and Sanjay happened to just be inspired. We had a very large flashlight in the car. He took it and stuck it out the window and aimed it right at this thing. And we all agreed we all felt like it was surprised somehow because it hung there a moment. And then it just kind of not closed in, but delit itself.
Oh.
It's really hard to describe. I'll let Lee try and describe that.
Right. And what we had was a spotlight that was plugged into his power source.
Oh.
So it was a very strong floodlight, or a floodlight type light.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that the light shuddered. I mean, it almost like it vibrated, and then just kind of went into itself. Yes, that would be my description of what that occurred.
So it's
right.
not. It wasn't just it wasn't just turning its light off. It was actually disappearing within its own space. Is that what you're explaining?
Either that or it became invisible to us. I didn't even think of that till later, because the scary part is that Sanjay immediately wanted to get out and see if he could still see it, because we were kind of parked inconspicuously by some brush, and he thought maybe it just was visible somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And so he got up, and he was only out of the car for a minute, and he came back and said, "I'm dreadfully sick. We have to leave right now."
Oh, wow.
And and he's like a strapping 6'1" guy. I mean, both you guys are like, yes, over 6 feet. So we were a little bit alarmed, and of course we left. We didn't want him to be sick. But I thought, what if it really just made itself invisible and was there close to us that whole time, and we just couldn't tell.
Sure, and that you were being affected by the field of it. Sure. We're going to take our hour break, ladies and gentlemen. So, Linda and Lee, if you guys just hold that thought, and we will come back to this on the other side of the break. But I'm just absolutely floored. This is amazing discussion. Thank you. And you all don't go away. We're going to take a break, and we will be back for more of The Portal. And Linda, Godfrey, and Lee Hempel, you're on The Portal. Don't go away.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, ripping scars across my heart. Raging anger boils inside me as their lies keep falling apart. With my silence, I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness, just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise, you're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed.
The wicked ones obviously under heavy Masonic influence. This looks extraordinarily bad.
They linger in a perpetual dream state, a nightmare from which they cannot wake.
I can't see you, Mommy. Where are you?
I've never sensed anything like it. Carol Ann is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force. It is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeist are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second hour of our show. The time is absolutely flying by tonight as we're diving into the world of the Dogman and several other strange, unexplained phenomenon as we're on our journey. And of course, Don is with me here tonight. Don,
Hey.
how you doing all this so far?
Doing good. Just trying to listen, and my goodness, I'm excited to hear about these things finally.
You know, it's just so absolutely interesting, and it's so phenomenal to discuss the people that were there doing it. You know, I mean, of course, our special guest, ladies and gentlemen, is Linda Godfrey tonight, a very well established investigator and author of the Dogman phenomenon, and author of several paranormal phenomenon books, and just amazing. And of course, we're joined by her co-researcher and friend Lee Hempel as well. So welcome back to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
So we're into this journey of investigating and finding strange tracks and light anomalies on your property. Lee, this is sounding like the Midwestern version of Skinwalker Ranch, you know, literally.
No doubt.
You've got so many things going on there.
I call it.
Yeah, Linda has. She calls it mini Skinwalker. My favorite thing she calls it is the field of weirdness. Right, Linda?
Yeah.
What else can you say? I mean, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface, and it's also connected with one of the most recent actual Beast of Bray Road sightings, which I don't know if you want to tell this, Lee, or it happened to a neighbor on a nearby farm in terribly cold February weather. What year would that have been, Lee? Was that 2014?
2014.
14. Okay. Yeah, and it was dead winter. Do you want to go ahead and tell it? It's your field.
Sure. I mean, my neighbor, he's a farmer, and he has landscape, and he also does snow plowing in the winter. And he was in his shed fixing at 3:00 in the morning, fixing a salt spreader that had broken, and the snow was falling. It was a very cold winter, and this was February of 2014. And he was in his in the workshop working on the salt spreader, and he had two donkeys, and they began braying very strangely at 3:00 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And he stepped outside of the workshop area and was seeing what was causing the donkeys to be, making this strange braying sound. And as he stepped outside, now he has a large number of the halogen lights because he has a lot of equipment around there. Mm-hmm. And so he looked, and here coming up his driveway was a coyote. And he goes, well, that's strange. This coyote's running up his driveway and in fact coming towards him and ran within 30 feet of him. But shortly right, like 20 feet behind it, was this creature running on two legs, six foot tall, as he would say, and chasing the coyote. And it also ran within 20 to 30 feet of him, directly past him, and turned and looked at him.
Oh,
And as he said, he said, I don't want to see that thing. He said, I made fun of other neighbors who have seen it. I don't want to see that creature running through, the beast running through my driveway,
Yeah.
And but he's very the people who've seen it are what do you want to say, Linda? They're difficult to want to talk about it because of the reputation that people have seen it, and he literally won't. He talked to me one time about it, and he won't talk about it anymore. But he jumped back inside of his shed and in his workshop and called another neighbor to come up there, because he said he wasn't coming out until somebody else came there. So, but it's the phenomenon. I mean, I talked with 5 of the local farmers who have seen it, and really only 2 of them are willing to talk about it.
Yeah, the other ones will just, they'll get mad, or they just say, no, somebody else saw it, or no, I don't want to even think about it. But the cool thing about that sighting he was telling you about is that, no, we did not get a photograph of the upright creature chasing the coyote, for all it was worth. And coyotes can run pretty fast, and you can imagine if this thing was coming on up on the coyote, maybe even gaining on it, it was going equally faster or a little bit faster. So that's impressive in itself. But there were trail cams set up by the most recent carcass, which had been quite thoroughly frozen and was mostly down to bones and sinew. And there were 2 coyotes. There were probably, what would you say, like 6 hours worth of trail cam visuals of these coyotes taking turns. And they were chewing on the sinew. It's very, very hard. And then these weird shafts of light were coming. And these weren't camera tricks, because the weird shafts of light that were coming from up above, each time the coyote would stop and look at it and then go back to eating. So, it was some sort of environmental phenomena that the coyotes were aware of. And finally, there was one that occurred where it was a really impressive light shaft coming down, and the coyote was looking up at it, and then it left finally. And it had started about 9 p.m., and this was about 2 minutes to 3. And what I believe is that coyote that we got on trail cam very, very well was the same one that was being chased by, I mean, what are the odds, by the odd creature? So so close to getting a picture of that, but yet so far.
Yeah.
And somehow the creature's there, and it knows enough not to get in range of the cam, whereas the coyote doesn't care. It'll just,
Sure.
It doesn't care who's taking a picture of it.
Wow.
And the other thing with those shafts of lights, Linda, when they come, is the coyote's ears. That coyote's ears are back, and it's showing total fear.
Right.
So it's showing total fear when those lights come. Mm-hmm.
Right. So you can tell
on the camera.
So you can tell it's a real something that the coyotes are aware of and can sense, perhaps in more than one way, and that's really interesting. To me.
Yeah, absolutely, and that would certainly rule out any kind of lens flare or anything like that, because the coyote would have no reaction to just a light anomaly, if it were just in the camera.
Exactly.
Correct. That's correct.
Wow.
And to go back to the time when Lynn and I, the first time she came and the smell was there, when we checked my camera, the mist was also there. That same time. Huh. We looked at the camera, and here the camera had pictures of actually me in the mist, and half of my body has disappeared. And it was a bright sunny day, and we couldn't see any mist. But when we looked at the camera, the mist was there, and that smell was there the same exact time.
Oh wow.
That is very interesting. Now, I didn't realize that the Dogman is known for that smell or that musk as well. I of course have heard it referenced with Bigfoot sightings forever, but I didn't realize that they too exhibit some kind of a threat musk or whatever when somebody's near. So when you guys initially came upon that smell when you were starting this whole investigative procedure, do you think that there was a strong possibility that there was one quite close by, and that's what you were smelling?
It could well have been. There's a very dense woods not very far from the place where it was lying. And I had gone back later with my friend Sandra Schwab, who is also a trained investigator, just to kind of check on the carcass.
Mm-hmm.
And we were there about maybe seven or so, and the smell was almost more overpowering at that time than it had been earlier.
Wow. That is, if it is close, that's just absolutely frightening.
We didn't stay long.
I was in the cornfield. I have a hayfield, but my neighbor had a cornfield at that time, and it still does. And I was with one of my hired man who would help me track. And there was another time, and we were checking more tracks that were in the cornfield, and that smell just overwhelmed us in the cornfield.
Wow.
And he's a 40-year-old, very, very strong individual, and he just took off running back to the truck and went and sat in the truck. He would not get out. Also, another time the smell, I was driving my tractor, and that smell overwhelmed me, and I thought, I have a wetland area,
mm-hmm.
and I'm going to drive my tractor right into that wetland, and because that's where the smell was coming from, it seemed to me. And as I approached the wetland and got within probably 50 feet, I got my tractor, and I'm heading right into it. It's a Alice Chalmers tractor, and my tractor quit running.
Oh, wow!
It basically started
totally
sputtering, and yep. And I kept it going, but I keep choking it, and so I did not want to get off my tractor, so I turned and headed towards my shed. And as I got probably 200-300 feet away from that wetland, the tractor started ran just fine, and that was 2016, and runs just fine, and never has done that again.
Huh.
That is bizarre. So it would seem to have some sort of energetic anomaly attached to it, then, right?
It seems to,
Yes.
Yeah. So much shows up on those trail cams, right?
Right. Yeah. So you're seeing a visual representation of it in the trail cams, and then you're seeing the mechanical representation or effect of it in the machinery and equipment. That's really bizarre.
Correct. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And that sphere, the lighted sphere, came from under that same tree. I mean, everything was sort of spotted around this one main point. I don't know what it is with that tree exactly,
mm-hmm.
but that was there. And then we had a couple of series of photos that showed what looked like an orange light that then opened up to the center, which reminded me very much of the description of the portals in the Skinwalker Ranch. They were these orange lights that showed up in the trees and got bigger and then smaller. And then at the end, you have something with black fur just showing itself partially, like right close to the camera.
Wow. Jeez. Now, Linda, you had sent me these 3 photos, speaking of an anomaly, and these, of course, are images we can show the viewers. Would you like to explain what is going on in these three captures here?
Let's let Lee do that, because they're his photo captures, but I'll just say I never have seen anything quite like these.
Yeah, me either. I'm going to drag them over to
which ones do you have, Brent?
Those latest ones, Lee, the ones that I said look like the bottle openers missing one side.
Okay.
That set of 3.
That's just from last week. It says July 8th on the
These are July
picture.
13th.
Yeah, July 13th. Yeah.
That's operator error. I did reset that camera. I have two cameras out at this time,
Okay.
and it is June 8th, so I had to reset that camera because I want to have two cameras out at this particular time, and so that camera. Actually, that was just one camera at that time, but I had reset it. So that is June 8th, I think, or that says June 8th on there, or June 13th.
It says July
Can
13th.
you see on there?
Yeah. It says July 13th on the image.
July 13th.
Yeah.
Okay, that is actually June 13th. Yes.
June 13th.
Otherwise, the time is correct and everything.
Okay.
Right. I have. I mean, that picture. I mean, if you look at that picture, that image appears to be rather large, and I mean,
It does. It takes
I
up-
can't even describe it.
Well, and you should also mention, Lee, that this is 3 photos taken within 1 second of exposure, correct?
Correct. And this is actually the middle picture. The first picture did not have that image on there in the tree, and then the second picture, which is approximately half a second long, a little bit less than that actually, is the image is there, and then the third picture, that image is gone. So that image is just there for a half a second.
Yeah.
I have my camera, Moultrie camera,
Yeah,
set up to do a burst of 3.
Right.
it looks solid.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing, and maybe some camera expert will have the answer to this and can let us know, because I know Lee and I both try very hard to rule out any other possibilities, before we go to the unexplainable side. And cameras can do strange things, but the first one to me looked a little bit blurred, as if it were getting ready to do something, and something set that camera off. And there's no other visible thing except for a little light form that's crawling or moving across the field.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it does move with every shot. That little, whether it's a bug or what, gliding across there.
I mean, remember that it's a Moultrie camera, and I set it on a burst of 3. So if it gets triggered, it takes 3 pictures within a second.
Wow.
So that little white light that's moving,
that couldn't
has
be a bug.
gone a long distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a bug.
Right. Yeah, that'd be too much. Far too big a stretch in each frame for it to be an insect. Yeah.
Correct.
No, I agree.
And I've had many triggers, and I call Moultrie and I say, what triggers your cameras? And this is I have had 7 cameras out there, different companies, and they've all performed the same way. They all get the mist, and they all get triggered without an animal in the picture. Moultrie says you have to have motion and heat to trigger their cameras.
Wow.
Well, if I have motion and heat, then some of these light sources that I have pictures of, because I have orbs going, I have orb pictures. Perhaps there's actual heat or motion in these orbs, or in this situation. What set that camera off the first one? That object is not in the first picture.
Yeah, it's just
it's in the second picture.
It does. I mean, the object has shading to it as well, which would seem to denote a 3D presence. I mean, there are bright points and dim points. It's not just a monochrome kind of thing,
No.
And it's got several tonal variations that would seem to indicate it has a depth to it in the field of light. So that's really impressive.
Yes. It is, and it looks like it has this very defined rim area and then a center hole, and it's right exactly where the orange things that we thought looked like portals were also. And it's the spot from which probably one of the creepiest experiments that we had. Remember, Lee, the deer that was chopped, it was a pretty large deer too. It was sort of dismembered and eaten, and then something picked up the carcass. And I don't want to be conflating this with another one. Maybe I'm mixing up too. But we had one where the deer head and spinal column were out in the middle of the field. Something had taken it out there and left it. And you could see where the neck was twisted, and then somehow sharply cut away. And Lee took that to a butcher and said, what would I have to do to this? What would I have to use to get this result? And the butcher told him, you'd have to have, a meat cutting, what would you call it? There's a technical word for it.
Cleaver.
A
He
cleaver,
said a
yeah.
cleaver.
A cleaver, with a board underneath it, and a very strong arm to get this. So, I'm pretty sure that Lee doesn't have crazy people with cleavers and, butcher knives and whatever running around his field at night.
Right.
So what does that leave?
Let's continue. That's the deer that so I had 15 deer were carried away. Now coyotes, they eat the deer and they go back to their young and disgorge. They don't carry the deer away or parts of the deer. I've had front quarters taken off of deer and just a front leg carried away.
Surgically.
Wow.
I mean, it looks
surgically, yes.
Yeah, it looks like a surgical instrument did it. And in fact, in my book, Monsters Among Us, I have a photo of that one where the leg is taken surgically. And a friend of mine from northern Wisconsin had no idea about these things, showed me a photo that a farmer had sent him. This is also in the book, that has the exact same front leg quarter surgically taken from a cow out in his field. So we've got classic cattle mutilation, deer mutilation going on out there.
Oh, wow.
So to continue with Linda, this is the one that where Linda. So I decided I would buy an iPhone because my deer kept getting carried away. Where are they getting carried to?
Okay.
So I bought an iPhone and a pouch, a waterproof pouch, and I had the bright idea that I was going to put this pouch, the iPhone in the pouch into the deer's mouth and down his throat. So we're trying to put this iPhone and pouch down this deer's, the roadkill deer's throat, and Linda's helping me. We're opening the mouth. We're trying to put it in this deer, and it was unsuccessful. So I bought some parachute cord and secured the pouch around that deer's neck.
Uh-huh.
And this is really strong. Really, really strong cord. Very, I mean, you can't imagine.
Yeah.
And the iPhone was in this waterproof pouch.
Right.
And that deer, the coyotes. I mean, I have coyotes there,
Sure.
and when I go there, and the rear end is eaten because they eat the back end because that's a better meat. And I go to my cameras, and here the coyote came and ate on the deer. Okay, But if I go there and other phenomenons have happened, such as the front quarter is removed, I either have no pictures or I have this mist.
Mm-hmm.
But this particular deer, the coyotes had eaten on and had pulled it out in my field probably 100 feet. They'll pull on them. And I took a picture on a Monday afternoon, and the iPhone is still on the deer around his neck, and the rear of the deer is mostly eaten off. And the next morning I went out there at 9:30, and my iPhone, the parachute cord is cut, and the iPhone is laying approximately 6 feet away from the deer, and the deer's head is gone, is missing.
And
that deer was full of maggots. It was at least rancid, that no human would be wanting that meat. And you'd think that if they'd gone to that trouble to somehow sever that very hard to sever cord, that they wanted the iPhone, but the iPhone was still there. So none of it was making sense.
Yeah, very, very strange.
And I picked that carcass up. I still have it. And like I said, I did take it to a meat cutter, and he doesn't know anything, about the situation.
Sure.
And I just said, how was this deer's head removed? And you can see that one of the vertebrae is cut directly through.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I've got pictures of that in my book too. Yeah. Yeah, it's. I have to say that afternoon spent trying to insert an iPhone into a dead deer on top of a wagon ranks as one of the weirdest afternoons of my lifetime.
Well, you can check that off your bucket list, Linda.
Yeah.
That's
There are all
hilarious.
kinds of places where you think it might go in, but it doesn't. Trust me.
Even after the coyotes get it.
Wow.
Wow, yeah.
So yeah, so I have that. I have that deer, the rest of that deer carcass, and it's just like I said, the meat cutters had certainly looked like them had been removed by a cleaver, and somebody had chopped the deer's head off. Well,
So
if there's
it sounds like
there's no people can get to my property, you know.
right. So you're in a secluded property, but it sounds like you I mean, would you say that these are very separate events of different occurrences, or do you believe that they're all intertwined? And I guess we can get into that after the break.
Break time.
We're on our last break already. Can you believe that? All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't go away. We'll be back with our last half hour of the portal here in just a few minutes. So we'll be right back.
Real people, real radio.
Initiating the truth frequency.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the last half hour of our show. I'm Brent Thomas, your host for the Paranormal Portal that you've been listening to, and I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. But this evening has absolutely flown by, and they always do here on the Portal, but some of these shows are just going so much faster than the normal fast that these shows go. It's just amazing. And this is definitely has to do with the caliber of the discussion, the topic, the points being made and the intrigue involved. It's like a spider web that you're crawling through in it, and it's just amazing at every turn. And of course, welcome back to the show, Linda, Godfrey, and Lee Hempel. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Before we go any further, I'd like to point this out. Over break, Don and I were discussing this photo that has the anomaly in it of the 3 that you sent, and Don and I were discussing it, and I was like, wow, look at it. It's got this 3D shape. It's got this, color. You can see looks like the head, and it connects to a pole underneath it or something. And Don goes, it looks like a scythe or like a scythe. And I was like, could that be what's cutting your deer? Is that the actual tool that's being used? Somehow it's just phased into reality there. That's what's cutting your deer?
To me, that's a very interesting point, Don. Very interesting, because it appears to be a tool, a pretty large tool, unless it's closer to the camera. But that's a very interesting point. Yes, because not only did that parachute cord get cut off of the deer, and with the iPhone, but also after that I tied a deer up with a rope, with a yellow propylene type marine rope, and that rope was cut, and that deer was carried away.
Wow.
Then I used a strap, that was used for holding down loads, and to tie down loads, and I put that on a deer, and that strap was cut. And that deer was taken away. So not only, and plus, like Linda said, when the front quarter is taken off, or other times, like even the raccoon, those cuts are surgical cuts.
Wow.
So that's a very interesting point, Don. I like that.
Ah, well, thank you.
See, I told you, Don. Don's like, you can say it. You can say it.
Just say it.
No, I think it's a very interesting possibility, because it does look mechanical. It really has those 3D kind of curves and lines to it, like a tool.
That's what made me think of a bottle.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
The way that it's arranged, but it just looks like you could reach in and grab it, But
right. Yeah, exactly. That's just really cool.
It doesn't look organic at all.
No, exactly. No. Right. That's a great way of describing it. It's not organic in in a natural way. It flows, it has curves and all that, but it looks like it's meant to do something.
Yes.
And it's not pareidolia either. It's
right.
not just. I'm pretty good at spotting pareidolia, and there's not. There you can tell that it's not a combination of light and shadow and leaves. It just is. It's just there, and it's solid, and it's like it's presenting itself almost, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's just really crazy. That is really wild.
But and this sort of thing is just you almost get so there's one weirdness after another. It's mind-boggling. It's just hard to describe. I gave you a little note. I thought we should also mention these 2 weird creature-like things that showed up 2 years in a row. They were so spooky in their movement that Lee nicknamed them Doppler. And they were taken across the field, and Lee had the idea, because I think it was another one of those little dry spells where we weren't having much luck with the camera close up, and he had the idea of, well, what if we move it all the way across the field? And it was approximately the same area where we had that incident with the light sphere, again across the field, looking back toward it, and what he got. And Lee, you have these on your website, don't you? These pictures, I think you do.
Yes, I do. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
think
you
I
can,
do.
What's
yeah,
the
you should. I'm
website?
sure they put that
On my
up.
blog. On my blog, I think so.
Yeah, he has a WordPress. We have WordPress blogs, and we can make sure we give you those
Yes.
before we go off air. But um, there was hay on it. It was well, let's see. It's hard to describe. Why don't you go ahead, Lee? Because you're much better with remembering the exact dates, and I don't want to mess that up.
Yeah, it's okay. I put you're very good. Linda is extraordinary in remembering things and keeping all this straight.
Thank you.
I did start I also have a log that I've been keeping since day one also. So I do have all this written down also.
Yeah, documentation is fantastic.
Yeah. But this particular time, this black object appeared a quarter mile away on my camera. Again, what set the camera off? You know, I mean, an animal a quarter mile away is not going to set off not going to trigger my camera, but it does. I get these triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And that animal is standing near a tree that's 14 feet tall, and it's at least 6-7 feet tall, and the breadth of it's huge. It's a huge animal.
Well, I went out. We reset the camera. I went out there to where approximately it was standing, and we had the camera in the same spot. And then kind of, I call it being my inner Bobo, where how Bobo on the TV show always goes out there and says, tell me to stop, when I'm right where it's. So
Sure. I'm
out there, and it was horribly wet. I didn't have my tall boots on, and my stockings were squishing inside my boots, and I'm bent over with my hooded jacket on. And then when we took that and put it next to the other one, you could see it was about 3 of me, whatever it was. And that's big. And it was furry, and it was black.
Wow.
Like a coal black.
Right. Well, you also reenacted the other one that was about 4 feet tall. Remember, you reenacted that one also.
Right. And then
I have.
Well, you did one too.
Right.
Yeah, we took turns.
Yes, and I did the one that was, and I'm about 6 feet tall by that tree, but I'm not near. I'm 6'3", 240 pounds or 230 pounds, and I was a miniature compared to the animal that was on the camera. I was very small.
And these occurred 2 years in a row. Approximately a year apart. I think it was like one was April and
yeah.
Yeah, and
they were about 6 months apart, right? Mm-hmm.
Because they looked like the same creature, but they were in different poses. And in one of them, it was kind of just there, and in another one, it was moving. It looked like it was crouched and moving with one arm extended. And again, these did appear like organic, animate objects because, again, it was the 3 shots in a row, and you could see it making the progress with each shot.
Right. Wow. And how far away was this from the camera again?
That was a Moultrie 800.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what?
No,
I
mean
your question?
the distance of the creature, yeah, from the camera.
Oh, the first one would have been okay. So a quarter mile is 400 yards, right? I would say one was about 200 yards, and the other one was about 400 yards.
Wow.
But the same
from
direction.
The
yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Same direction, I guess.
Could that creature have been enough mass and size to trigger the camera?
Not from that distance.
Moultrie tells me 80 feet.
80 feet.
It's
so
triggered. It has to be heat and motion within 80 feet of the camera.
Wow. So
that's what Moultrie tells me.
Something was moving away from that thing then twice would be, I guess, what I would extrapolate from that. Is that correct?
I mean, I get triggers I got 1,000 triggers in 3 days one time, and not one picture of an animal in it.
Wow.
And there was no animal. Well, there may have been a bird a couple times, but basically I got 1,000 triggers in 3 days.
Oh, well, that's got to be frustrating, though, huh? Going
then
through those.
Then other times I'll have the camera out for a week, and I'll go and I'll have 30 triggers, and it's all a bird or a coyote coming through or a deer coming through, and it's working just fine. Yeah. Then a month later, I'll check it, and I'll have 500 triggers in a week.
So Lee, I have a question regarding your trail cam usage. Are these trail cams being camouflaged in any way, or are they just basically on a post pointed in a direction?
Everything, from on the ground to 7 feet up in the air, on a post, sometimes in trees. Okay. I've tried every experiment I can think of, to
possibility. And it's always the same. Yeah.
Right. And it's the same. I mean, of course, I do have pictures of UFOs also. That very
interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you've got just a hotbed going on there of many different things, or maybe it's all somehow interrelated in some way that we don't know. But it's just mind blowing, all of the things you're experiencing, and I mean, it literally is just like the Skinwalker Ranch. That's incredible. Now, is there? Oh, I'm sorry, Linda. Go ahead.
I was just going to say. Sorry, I didn't mean to be stepping on you, but I did want to mention that Lee has this kind of telling story about when he moved in and started talking to the neighbors about it. And didn't they say to you, Lee, that you live right where the creature is, and of course this is all new to him, but the truth is that this end of Bray Road is where a lot of the sightings have occurred along the roadside of something that looks like an upright wolf-like creature. There, and then a certain place, maybe a 1 mile down the road, and then on the very far end. But the end where his ranch is near to, it's not right on Bray Road, but it's near, is the end where there probably is the most sighting activity of creatures.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, yes. The gentleman told me, my neighbor told me that people say the beast of Bray Road lives back here on your property. That's what he told me.
Hey Lee, I'm on Linda's blog, and I'm looking at a picture. It talks about Roy Smith, and it says this black creature in the field. Are these the pictures you're talking about?
Yes, he used a pseudonym for the book and for the pictures on my blog. Right. Partly because, we weren't sure how they'd be received, but my publisher thought that he should take that precaution.
Sure, absolutely.
But then, when it was out, he changed.
Yes, in the book, I'm Roy Smith.
Right. Yeah. So, I'm checking out Linda's blog because you mentioned the pictures, and here I am looking for the pictures, and I just wanted to make sure these are the right ones.
Yes.
So, wow. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
What?
Are you looking at the creatures?
Okay. So, let me see here. Let me get back up to the top. On April 29th, 2015, one of Smith's trail cams caught a black figure silhouetted against the growing green field. Is that the one we're looking at?
Yep.
Okay, I got it.
That would be one of them. That'd be one of them, yes.
Yeah, there's a couple zoom ins, and then there's you standing back a ways from the camera. So, yeah, I got those pictures here. Cool. Well, yeah, I just wanted to check it out and see those pictures. So thank you very much.
Sure. And I don't know if I have both the next year's too, because there was also 2016.
There was another one. Yeah, there was another one. Yeah. April 15, and then this one is May 2016. Yeah, I got them.
Right.
Yep.
Right, and there should be a separate one that shows each of us doing our impression of the creature, trying to be in the exact same spot where
Right.
it was in each of those cases.
And that's where it says the 6'3" tall Smith in left in the baseball cap. Gotcha. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I
So-
didn't mean to break in, but yeah, I just was wondering.
No. That's
No, I thought these were very important, because it isn't that often that you really have a chance where you can go back, exactly where it should have been and have the photo and then try and reenact it. I thought that was a good opportunity and really forwarded the research a little
Right.
bit there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Lee, are you still there, Lee?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yes.
Okay. I just was hearing noise. I just want to make sure we didn't lose you.
Oh, I have my phone here in my chair and it fell off. So, so I'm back. I'm back.
Okay, good deal. So this still continues to this day. Then I mean, this is why, Linda, you've got to come back over and over and over because, I mean, we've had 2 hours and we have a little bit of time left here. I mean, we got like 9 minutes left of the show, and there's so much more to talk about. There's so much more to discuss, and these, and with you as well, Lee. I mean, your experiences are just amazing.
Well, if you go to my blog is Roy Smith's Hayfield.
Okay.
And in June of 2017 is when I was driving down Bray Road and this light came and I don't know why this happens to me, but also Linda has had other people report this, but this light came and literally chased me down Bray Road, and I have pictures of it on my blog. And I mean, this was a bright light. It was so bright. I mean, I have a 2011 Chevy Silverado, and people flashed me, and my headlights look like these dim yellow. And now that I think about it, I think my electrical system was not functioning properly because my lights got dim. And this white bright light followed me for about a mile down Bray Road.
Yeah, we sent the photos to a camera and photo expert, and he said it appeared to be some type of plasma eruption or explosion or flash, but there was nothing really there to create the plasma that you could see. Plasma is heated gas. So where is that coming from, and why is it following his vehicle all the way to the end of the road?
Right. Wow.
Which is really strange. But the weird thing is, I mean, I still get reports from one place or another, usually average at least one a week, and I'm still getting them about Bray Road. I got one just a couple weeks ago that I'm still kind of poring over. I like to investigate some things when I can before I post them to avoid later embarrassment. But it was from 1983. And it was a man who was driving down Bray Road. He had a swollen arm and was going to the hospital, to the emergency room, and his wife was along, and it was winter, and they were on Route 12, which is near Bray Road. It was a part of Route 12 that was close to it. And he saw something. He said, I saw something running along the right-of-way fence, which was 10 to 15 feet off the shoulder, 400 or 500 feet ahead. As I got closer, I thought it must be a bear. Then I was confused. My bright lights were on, and I could see it was large and running on 2 feet. So I punched it, not the creature, but his floor, the pedal, I'm sure he means, and zoomed in on it. When I was within about 100 feet, it abruptly stopped dead in its tracks and froze. Immediately, I pulled onto the shoulder and slowly moved toward it. This guy is brave. Maybe 5 miles per hour. I was within 20 to 30 feet and stopped. I still couldn't make out what it was. It was completely lit by my lights. It looked like a pile of fur coats. All of a sudden, it started rising. I could see massive legs, gigantic calves and thighs, hairy butt cheeks, no tail. It was still facing north, torso bent forward at the waist. I couldn't see its head yet. Now I'm really scared, thinking it must be a squatch. I flashed my lights at it. It rose up further and without moving its feet turned slowly at the waist to its left to look at me. Its legs were still bent at the knees, still leaning forward and already over 6 feet tall.
Wow.
I was mesmerized. It turned around to face me. It was no squatch. Let me say at this point, it never stood totally erect or stopped leaning forward throughout this experience. It had no facial hair, although the head was covered in hair. All around the face was clean. No wolf head, wolf ears with tufts like a lynx. Believe it or not, I've heard that a number of times. Large eyeballs. He said the eyes were yellow with kind of red, would have been like blood veins in them. I'll just kind of shorten it by shortening up that paragraph. They were bulging out of the socket slightly, glowing from within like it had a light bulb in its head. It had a short muzzle, not like a dog. Some of this is handwritten. I'm not able to read it very well. I still haven't figured it out. And a bright pink human type mouth, 2 or 3 times wider than a person's.
Wow.
Outlined in red like lipstick. I'm not sure if that could mean it was eating something bloody. No hair on the chest. It goes on. Super 6-pack abs, no visible reproductive organs, very long arms. He said he thought it was about 30 seconds that he was looking at it and it was looking at him.
Wow.
And, it was just terrifying. He hand wrote 6 pages for me, and we had some email contact, and I'm planning to meet him out at Bray Road and hopefully, get his own take on it to post very soon. So the thing is, if you imagine all these things have been going on at Lee's farm for probably since before he moved there, and then you go back as far as the 80s, we're approaching 40 years there of these things happening, and I don't know how much farther they really do go back.
Right.
My earliest one would be 1981. Again, something not right on Bray Road, but on that same end where Lee's farm is. And the reason I keep pursuing it is there's something really weird here. I'm very curious as to what it is, and I don't know if we'll ever get an answer, but we sure can try, and I think we ought to keep trying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Linda, we have about 3 minutes left. Can you please let our listeners know how they can keep in touch with what you're doing?
Sure. The best place is my blog. It's just lindagodfrey.com. No WWs. It's a WordPress blog, and right now I've been putting in a cluster of sightings from Michigan that I started getting from unrelated sightings at different times, but all of a sudden I got this little bunch from Michigan. I'm not sure exactly why. And they're kind of creepy. A wolf up on a roof and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I have a list of my books and links. There's a list of upcoming events that I'll be at. Other interesting things that have gone on around the county. I've got something on giant skeletons found in effigy mounds in the county. Yeah, there's a pretty wide amount of stuff, and there's a page with basic facts about the Beast of Bray Road and Dogman. So there's quite a lot there, and I have a couple things set up to add to it, and hopefully this weekend yet. Wow. So, and Roy, I'm calling him Roy. Lee should actually spell his web or blog site too, because just to make sure everybody gets it right. Least
my blog is Roy Smith Hayfield.
Mm-hmm.
Roy Smith Hayfield.
Does that have an apostrophe in Smith's?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Not in the address though.
Yeah, just on the page it does, but in the address it's just RoySmiths and then Hayfield.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So,
okay.
And I have that up on screen, and I'll also put up your blog as well, Linda, so that everybody can see that as well. Just some great sites, everybody. Please stop by and check it out. Linda's book out there is Monsters Among Us, and you can find that on Amazon or at Barnes & Noble or I'm sure you can get it through Linda herself. Is that right as well, Linda?
Well, I can mail books to people in the U.S.
Okay.
Autographed, but I also do appearance signings. I'm going to be up in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, at the end of August, and in Kentucky, in Frankfort, Kentucky. You can see that on the blog too, and a couple other places. Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you for tuning in tonight, and thank you so much to Linda and Roy.
Lee.
Sorry. But
well, thank you.
We
Thank
hope you guys can
Thank
come
you for
back
having
and be
me.
a part of this again. We really loved it, and we have so much more to discuss. So we'll get something scheduled hopefully soon.
More.
Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for Jimmy Gene Into the Microcosm coming up next on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, TalkStream Live. Love you all dearly. Be good, be kind, be nice to each everybody. And we'll see you on Wednesday night for our Wednesday stream. So take care, and we'll see you next time.
Hi, my name is Ella, and I'm 10 years old. I'm one of the millions of children